Hello everyone. Welcome to Deku Universe. Today we are beginning What If Kitsune Deku Could Swap Gender? The fanfiction is created by Uclipse on fanfiction.net. Now let's begin. Thoughts: 10-year-old Izuku hated his life. Ever since he was labeled as quirkless, his friends turned his back on him. His best friend turns into his personal tormentor. His father left his mother cause of him, at least he believed. And his mother couldn't look him in the eye cause of her guilt of saying the wrong thing when he asked her an important question. Izuku was currently walking to school when he is pulled into an alley by a familiar blonde. "Where do you think you are going, you useless Deku?" asked Izuku's ex-childhood best friend Katsuki Bakugo. "Are you trying to get out of your daily beating?" "Well, you're wrong, Deku," Katsuki yells as he explodes Izuku in the chest, launching him into two of Bakugo's followers. One was a skinny guy with a finger quirk and one was a fat guy with a wing quirk. "Haha, sorry Deku, but you of all people know you can't escape Bakugo." Fingers extended his finger to wrap around Izuku's shoulders and holds him in place. "Why, Kitsune? What?" Izuku says in a low raspy voice due to him hitting Izuku in the chest and slamming his ribs into his lungs. "Thubby, why? You dare ask why? It's because you are weak, useless Deku who dreams to be a hero. Someone like you belong underneath my feet. The strong survive this world, the weak need to be put down so they don't become a burden for those who are strong. So since you are weak and I'm strong, you deserve to be under my feet and deserve to be put down." Bakugo yells as he holds his hand back for a couple of seconds before he comes swinging down and launches a really big explosion into Izuku's stomach area, sending Izuku flying about 50 feet before slamming into a building nearby and dropping to the ground, barely conscious and bleeding. "Kitsune, WI." Izuku whispered out as he is slowly slipping in unconsciousness, still bleeding a lot. Katsuki's followers' eyes widen in fear as they look back at Bakugo, who has a wide grin on his face looking down on the badly beaten and bloody Izuku. "Dude, I think that was too far." The boy with wings stuttered out as he realized that Bakugo has gone too far. "Don't care." Bakugo yells out as he savagely stares down at the beaten and bloody boy. He is a Deku. He deserves RO beaten up and torn down. If he can't learn that lesson, then he should die. Bakugo says, not even showing any remorse for beating Izuku so badly that he was sent into a wall and ended up on the ground bleeding with an indent of his body in the wall. "And we should get out of here," Fingers said as he and Wings ran as fast as possible away from the murderous-looking Bakugo. "Dash. You are trash Deku, you belong under my feet like this." Bakugo yells as he plants his foot onto Izuku's already bruised-up face. "You want to hear something?" Bakugo leans down so he right next to Izuku's face. "You should just disappear. Me, the school and most importantly Auntie Inko will all be just happy if you disappear forever Deku." Bakugo says as he laughs and walks away, letting the already beaten Izuku wallow in shame of being put down. Izuku just laid there looking up at the sky that was covered in clouds as it was slowly starting to darken and rain. After what deemed to be an hour of just laying there, all Izuku could do was just look up cause Katsuki damaged his body more than Izuku first assumed. As the raindrops fell, Izuku could feel himself crying. "Why?" Izuku asks to tie sky above knowing nobody and nothing would respond. "Why is it me that has to suffer this fate?" Izuku says as he is full on crying while having the rain pelt his body with its heavy drops. As Izuku feels himself slipping into unconsciousness, whispers out, "I wish that I had the power to." Izuku's lips move without making a sound as his body becomes limp. Before Izuku faints, he hears a bodiless voice whisper back to him, "I shall grant your wish." Darkness. That's all Izuku saw as he closed his eyes after hearing that ominous voice saying they granted his wish. "My wish, what was it? To finally get a quirk. I can't remember." Izuku thought to himself as he drifted through the darkness of his mind. "I can answer your question for you, Izuku Midoriya," the bodiless voice said to Izuku. "Oh, thanks." "Wait, who said that?" Izuku asks as he looks around the seemingly empty void. "Oh right, you can't see me. Wait a second." The bodiless voice says as light floods Izuku's mindscape and blinds Izuku. When the light dies down, Izuku finds himself in a field of flowers. After looking around for a bit, Izuku sees a tall sakura tree with a fox underneath it. Seems you noticed me. Not a lot of people find me that fast. Izuku jumps to his feet after hearing the voice again and looks for where the voice is coming from and slowly lowers his eyes to the fox. Are you the one who is speaking to me, fox? Or am I going crazy and just talking to a fox? Izuku asks both to the fox and to himself, waiting for a response. Yes, kid, I'm the one talking to you. The fox says in Izuku's mind, don't ask how since they're in the mindscape. Causing Izuku to jump again. I know you have a lot of questions, but I'll ask mine first. So Izuku, do you truly wish for a quirk? The fox asks as it slowly approaches Izuku. Wish? I do wish for a quirk, but it's impossible, isn't it? Izuku asks as the fox stops in front of him and sits down. Who are you, little fox? Izuku asks as he sits down to be somewhat level with the fox that is bigger than Izuku first perceived. Yes, introductions, I forgot about that. You can call me the fox if you wish. I'm a forgotten deity from a long time ago. I no longer remember my true name, unfortunately. The fox says, causing Izuku's eyes to widen due to shock of a deity forgetting their name. How can a feisty FO forget their name? Well, that answer is simple. If people forget about a deity, then said deity will either forget about themselves or just simply disappear. Izuku's eyes widen again cause he never thought that a deity can forget about themselves because of people forgetting about them. Unfortunately, the existence of quirks have made people forget about us deities. But is it that simple that quirks have weakened deities so much that they disappear? Yes, it's that simple. Izuku's eyes are full of worry and fear cause he is worried about the small deity in front of him. It's gotten so bad that almost all of us are just gone. How many? How many are left? Izuku asks. It's just me. I'm the last one. The fox says as he suddenly feels Izuku hug them. What are you doing, human? The fox asks in a questionable voice. I'm sorry that you are alone. Izuku says as he continues to hug the fox for a solid 10 minutes before letting it go. Can you actually grant my wish? Izuku asks, afraid of the rejection. Yes, I can. Please lower your head so I can bestow you the powers of the 9 tails. The fox says as it raises its paw. Yes, sir. Izuku says as he bows his head. Aro the fox. All right, then let me start. The fox says as it lowers its head on the boy's head. I bestow the rest of my power into a quirk for this bot with the power of the ever-changing 9 tails. The fox says as it lets some of the ancient fox warriors/heroes enter the boy. When the fox sees 2 specific spirits, he widens his eyes as it didn't expect them to accept the boy. It is done. Now for some warnings. First one is that you are going to have to understand the forms on your own. The more you understand the form, the more potential is unlocked. Second, don't reveal your powers in public till you get to the UA. And third, the fox pauses trying to figure out a way to tell Izuku about the outside situation. What is it, fox? Izuku is worried about what the third warning is. I shouldn't tell you this, but Izuku, in the outside world you are in critical condition and have been in a coma for a year because of the beating from Bakugo. Your mother isn't doing so well either. Please, before you train, make sure she is in a good mental state. The fox deity says, making Izuku's eyes widen and fall back from the devastating news. I'm sorry, kid, but be strong for your family at least. The fox sits back down and stares at the boy, waiting for him to calm down. After Izuku is done panicking, stands up and faces the fox. Thanks for granting my wish. I'll remember you, I promise. Izuku finishes saying as he starts to disappear. I promise to build a little shrine for you so you can be remembered by those who see it. Izuku yells as he disappears. Thanks, human. The fox deity says as he looks up. Why did you two pick that human when you both hate humans to your souls? 6 and 8 tails. Do you both think this human is different? If you don't, I'll support the boy all the way. The fox says as the mindscape fades as Izuku finally wakes up. Izuku's eyes slowly open as bright light fills in as his surroundings slowly register to him. The first thing he sees is a heart monitor followed by all the other medical equipment that must have been used to save him. The next thing that registered to him was the fact that he was starving. I'm hungry, but I'll have to wait for someone to come here, Izuku says in a raspy voice due to not walking for so long. As Izuku tries to find a way to get the doctor or a nurse, he sees the door open with a man staring at a clipboard entering the room. Alright, time to see Mr. Midoriya's Vita. The doctor comes to halt as he sees an awake and confused Izuku looking around before noticing the doctor. So can you get my mom or? Izuku says, wanting to check to see how his mother is doing. The doctor fumbles with his clipboard before straightening himself out and responding. Ah, good to see that you're up, Mr. Midoriya. And yes, I'll call your mom and get some others to check up on you. The doctor says in a calm, soothing voice as to not startle the patient. Okay, and can I get some food? I'm really hungry, Izuku says as his stomach growls in agreement. As you say, Mr. Midoriya, the doctor says as he leaves the room and panic stresses on the other side of the door before walking down the hall and out of earshot. Izuku can't help chuckle at that and can't help thinking that it's good to see people's worried expressions again, but not out of pity. 10 minutes later, the same doctor enters with a tray of food with 2 other doctors behind him. How are you feeling, Midoriya? Asked the doctor to the left. Any nausea or pain anywhere? Asked the nurse to the right. I'm fine. I'm just hungry and I want to see my mom. Izuku responds as he grabs some of the food off the tray and starts eating. The doctors and nurse look at each other and start thinking the same thing. For someone who was in a coma for a month, he is mentally healing a lot faster than any other person. Izuku baby. Inko was pouring out tears as she entered her son's hospital room and saw him awake for the first time since he was found in an alley and had almost died from blunt force trauma and BLD loss. Inko was not expecting to hear that her son was found half dead in an alley. When she heard the news, she immediately headed to the hospital to find her son in critical condition. After he was cleared to be visited by family members only, Inko could only stare and sit as her son lay motionless on a bed with multiple machines hooked up to him, since the doctors and nurses don't have the quirks to deal with BLD loss or blunt force trauma. For a week, Inko sat in her son's room barely eating and drinking, just staring at his body. After the first week she didn't go back to work, she just stayed at home barely keeping herself from collapsing or much worse. When she heard Izuku woke up a lot sooner than expected, she immediately drove there with speeds that would put her in jail for a while. Hey mom. Sorry for the pain I've caused you. Izuku responded with a soft, genuine smile. No baby, I'm the one who should be apologizing. If I hadn't been so blinded by my self-hate and pity, I would have noticed that you were missing the moment you didn't come home from school. I'm sorry I failed as a mother, Izuku. Inko continued to sib eye to Izuku's bed as he looked down at her. Mom, it's not your fault. I should have told you about the bullying. Izuku realized he just said the wrong thing. You were being bullied. Inko yelled as she shook her son. Yes, I was getting bullied, but I have a way of it, Izuku says with his face full of determination. Izuku honey, do you need to switch schools? Inko asks, using her motherly bond with her child to predict his answer. Yes, but I also have something else to tell you. I have a quirk now, Izuku says as he looks at his mom with pure happiness. Really, what is it? Inko asks. She grips her son's shoulder real tight. It's just a simple fox quirk, Izuku says as he puffs into green smoke, and in his place is a green fox. This causes his mom to faint and the doctors to rush forward and put her on the couch. When Izuku transforms back, he thinks to himself, well, she is going to faint a lot when I finally tell her I also have other forms. 5 years later, he go to a green-headed boy walking through the forest as he hums to himself. As the boy hums, he comes to clearing that has a shrine in the middle of a little pond on a patch of land. As the boy approaches the shrine, we see our favorite broccoli boy Izuku. As Izuku sits down, he starts meditating. It's been a while since I've been here. I've grown the quirk you've given me. I have access to all 10 forms, so thanks for that, Izuku says as he starts remembering the incidents and powers of the forms he has unlocked by now. Narrator Izuku voice. I have a total of 10 forms. Those are 0 to 9 tails. Here's a rundown of the powers of the forms I've unlocked. First off is 0 tails, aka my quirkless state. I don't have any fox ears of tails, so I can pass as quirkless. In this form/body, I for some reason have a photographic memory within this form for some reason. I usually am in the form in public posing as a quirkless kid till I fulfill my promise. The drawback is that I'm still a coward, but what do you expect? Next is my one-tail form. It's just a green fox that can change its size. The upside is that it's really fast despite its size. It can be up to half the size of a horse and as small as a cat or a normal-sized fox. The downside is that when in this form I have strong animal desires/urges. Next is two tails. Despite my age, this form appears as a preteen fox boy with orange hair, orange eyes, orange fox ears and orange tails. From what experimenting I've done, the powers this fox form has is some sort of chaos control. It can affect almost anything and basically spread pure chaos on what the fox wants and touches. For example, I touched a tree with the power activated and the tree started bending and shaping into a wacky tree shape before I turned off the power, and the tree stopped and took the shape of a weird, wicked-looking tree. I can also shoot the energy and it destroys or distorts what it comes in contact with. The only drawback is that I become childish. All in all, definitely a powerful form but somewhat hard to control with the childish attitude and destructive power. Next is three tails. This form haunts my dreams sometimes because of the incidents I've had in public with it. The drawback is the worst drawback of all of the forms. It's something called lucky lecture lure. Basically, whenever I'm around people, my clothes just randomly fall off, which led me to almost being arrested for public NDTY. Did I also say that this form turns me into a female, like literally changes my entire body and hormones into one of a female's? Yeah, I don't get it either. But anyways, onto the powers. This form makes my fox ears and tails into pure fire. Don't worry, they don't burn anything unless I want them to. And turns my hair into long black and smooth hair and eyes into a light golden color. The powers let me control the fire that comes out of my body, making me into a fire fox girl. The upside is that I'm pretty much immune to all fire attacks. I can be damaged by fire but almost nothing gets through my body. Next is four tails. Another female form. This form turns my hair into rusty brown color, my eyes into a deep brown, rusty brown fox ears, and rusty brown fox tails. This form's power lets me control the earth itself. Yeah, it's pretty overpowered, but with every great power comes a weird drawback. That is that this form comes with the urge to literally bury bullies 10 feet under the ground. It's happened twice now to some disgusting villains that I've come across in the streets. Now onto a somewhat normal form, five tails. It keeps my messy curly green hair and gives my green ears and tails. This form's power is to transform into anyone it touches. I can hold the transformation for 5 minutes until I go back to my natural five tails form. The drawback is that I have the urge to prank people with the transformations. Not much else to say. Next is six tails. It's a female form that turns my eyes into a pink shape and my hair, fox ears, and tails into a white color. This form's power, from what I've experimented with so far, is the power to heal most injuries and use a type of love magic. This form is a really great supporter type, and the live magic works on both sexes but works more effectively on males. The downside to great power is have sadistic tendencies. There's an incident when I saw a bully with a lizard quirk and used the love side of the form and made him go to mall and do multiple dances and stupid pranks, resulting in him eventually getting detained by mall police. Next is seven tails. It's a male form that turns his eyes, hair, ears, and tails into an icy blue color. The power of this form is to create ice and control all ice. It's pretty powerful ice. I can currently create ice that can't be melted by most fires. The only exceptions are the special fires like Endeavors or that villain who uses cremation flames. The downside is that he becomes extremely cold to others unless he trusts them enough to protect him if he gets teared. Next is the most powerful form in his arsenal, eight tails. Eight tails is the last female form. It turns her eyes, ears, hair, and tails into pale orange color, and her face is that of a childish cute teen. Despite her appearance, her powers are through the roof. She has the ability to reverse and fast-forward time and some weird ability called Sage. The experimenting with the time part was interesting because I accidentally reversed a tree's time and put it back to its sapling state. This power comes with the most devastating drawback. She hates the humankind. Every time I'm in public as her, I just scowl at others and deck them across the face if they don't leave me alone. When I first turned into her, I received a lot of information about the true nature of people and how quirks have corrupted a lot of people, leaving only a few good people left in the world. But even those people can be corrupted. Finally is the last form, Nine Tails. This form has not changed his coloring at all, leaving Izuku with messy curly green hair, emerald green eyes, green ears and green tails. This form's power is to manipulate the tails themselves into anything he wants. For example, like a club, sword, wall, or even a ball of hardened fur to protect himself. The only drawback is that he gets a bit of some anger issues from the resentment that builded up in Izuku over the years. There is also one last thing about this form. It has become Izuku's natural state, so if his quirk were to be shut off via Eraserhead or quirk-canceling HNDCFFS, this would be the form he goes to. Stop inner dialogue. After an hour of meditating in front of the Fox Shrine, Izuku gets up and starts to walk away from the shrine. Izuku looks up before leaving the field, having the wind carry his hair. Izuku can't help but think to himself, just 1 month. 1 month and I can finally reveal some of my powers. I will always remember this gift you have given me. Thank you, Fox. Izuku says to himself as he walks away from the shrine toward his home. 1 month before UA entrance exams. We go to our favorite green-headed fox boy who is currently on a trash-littered beach beating up a dryer in his Nine Tails form. Alright, let's try a combo move. Izuku grunts to himself as he launches himself at the dryer and grabs it with his tails and flings it into the air. The dryer goes flying into the air as Izuku puts his tails onto the ground and uses them like a spring and launches himself into the air, going after the dryer and goes above it before the dryer starts to fall again. Izuku curls all of his tails together and twists them into one giant tail. Giant Tail's hammer. Izuku shouts out as his tails seem to harden in the sunlight, and he twists his body so he can bring his tail down with more force. The moment the twisted tails and the dryer connect, the tails crush the dryer and leave an indent in it as it gets flung to the ground at the speed of sound, making a sonic boom as it crashes into the ground. Not done yet. Izuku yells as he uncurls his tails and puts his tails behind them. When they are behind him, he spreads them out and makes them grow while shaping the ends of the tails to take a fist shape and hardens it. Izuku then raises his hand in the air as he starts to fall and yells. Ultimate move, Nine Tails Sky Judgment. He calls out as he strikes his hand down and his tails come crashing down fast and they all strike the crushed dryer, completely demolishing it and turns it into a dryer pancake. Izuku manages to land safely on the ground and starts panting from the strain of doing one of his ultimate moves. I still need to work on that. He chuckles to himself as his body explodes into green smoke and he reappears in his Zero Tails form as the smoke disappears. Note to self, need to work out more in Nine Tails form to do combo moves that end in an ultimate attack. Izuku says he jots down some notes in his Tails form notebook. Hey kid! Yelled a feminine voice from behind Izuku, causing him to jump an entire foot into the air out of fear. Why yes. Izuku nervously stutters as he slowly turns around and faces a woman with long bunny ears dressed in a white jumpsuit. Mirko. What can I do for you? Izuku stutters as he curses himself in his mind for the terrible drawback of being a big coward in his Zero Tails form. What you did to that dryer was amazing. It takes inhuman strength to achieve that level of destruction with just hitting it with those tails you have. Mirko walks up to Izuku, who is stumbling with his notes. Hey, what with the notebook, kid? Mirko asks as she reads the title. It's my notebook on my quirk. Izuku stutters out as he attempts to hide it, but he was too slow as Mirko swiped the book and started to read it. After a couple of minutes of Izuku yelling to give his book back and Mirko just ignoring him, she closes the book and gives it back to Izuku. You got one interesting quirk, kid. Say, are you trying to be a hero by any chance? Mirko raises her eyebrow, looking down at the boy, figuring he was in his last year of middle school. Why yes I am. I'm trying to get into UA. Izuku says with as much pride as he can in his cowardly body. Ha! I like you, kid. What do you say to a battle? Mirko bluntly asks, causing Izuku to step back by the invitation to fight one of the top 10 heroes. If you win, I'll help you get into UA. Mirko slightly smirks, knowing this kid could use any chance to get into the top hero school. I suppose I could fight, but what form should I use? Izuku mutters to himself, figuring Mirko couldn't hear him, but he forgot she has enhanced hearing. I say use your 3 or 9 tails. Your choice, but I'm attacking you in 5 seconds. Mirko says as she gets into a runner's position. Wait, let me think for a second. Izuku barely dodges a powerful kick from Mirko as he bursts into cloud of smoke. Well, it looks like the fox has taken up my challenge. Mirko was interrupted by the searing pain flaring up her leg as she looked down and saw a fire tail looped around her leg, slightly burning her. Mirko smirks as she looks up to the dissipating smoke and sees a slim girl with long black hair, golden eyes, and fox ears and 3 tails, all of which are on fire. I see you choose your 3 tails form, but I'm actually surprised that it did turn you into a girl. But I can't wait to see what you're made of, fox. Mirko grins as she rushes at the fox girl and goes for a downward axe kick. Izuku manages to leap out of the way but loses her shirt in the process, leaving her in her BR. TSK, this is why I don't fight as 3 tails in front of people. Izuku snarls at herself as he gets on his hand and starts to break dance, twirling her tails in the process, making them, building a lot of power as her tails absorb all the oxygen in the air, making the fire tail's strength grow a lot. When your notes said you lost clothes in public in this form, I was skeptical, but now I see it's true. Mirko mocks Izuku as she leaps at Izuku, leaving a crater in the sand where she was standing. Izuku then starts to dance her way toward Mirko and meets her halfway as she lets her tails go wild, while Mirko goes for a punch at the fox girl. Lunar punch. Mirko calls out as she lats her punch fly at Izuku and lands a solid punch to her chest, but not before all 3 tails WHP Mirko hard and leaves second-degree burns on her face and arms. Izuku got sent flying and landed hard into a refrigerator, making her cough out a bunch of BLD and start to breathe really hard from having the wind knocked out her. After a couple of moments, Izuku slowly stood up and looked at Mirko, who was currently checking out the burns on her face and arms. Damn kid, you dealt a lot more damage to me than most villains manage to pull off, and the fact you are still standing after a direct hit from my lunar punch. Mirko smirks as she continues. You are truly going to be a powerful force to reckon with, kid. As promised, I'll help you get into UA. Mirko says as she hops over to Izuku, who puffed into smoke again and reverted to his 0 tails form. But I didn't win. I only managed to hit you a few times, whereas you almost knocked me out with 1 punch. Izuku says as he is very confused by why he was getting the help of Mirko after losing to 1 punch. Just like I said, kid, you are still standing after a full power direct punch to the chest. You are worthy of me to help you out, kid. So stop refusing my help and just take my hand, little fox. Mirko says as she lowers her hand to Izuku, who looks up with tears rolling down his face as he grabs her hand and stands up. Thank you, Mirko. Why, you are the first person to acknowledge me, not out of pity or hatred. So thank you, Mirko. Izuku says as he continues to cry because of the sheer bliss that he is feeling. Geez, kid, didn't know that you had some personal problems like that. Mirko sighs as she puts both hands on Izuku's shoulders and gives him a serious look. Look, kid, if you want my help, you need to stop crying and focus on getting stronger. You and I both know that you can grow a lot stronger, so until the UA recommendation exams start, I'll be training you. Mirko proudly says as Izuku stops crying and looks like he is processing what she just said. What? Time skip to the day before recommendation exams. Izuku is currently sitting on top of a pile of crushed metal, staring up into the sky in his 0 tails form. How long are you going to hide for Mirko? Izuku calls out as he turns his head to a pile of trash. Said pile of trash starts to rustle and explodes, revealing Mirko in her hero outfit. I see you have noticed me again, little fox. Mirko triumphantly says and looks at Izuku, who has an unamused face. You know you can show a bit more emotion when I show up. Mirko says disappointedly toward her trainee. Well, you don't even try to hide when you approach me anymore, so of course I would have a bored expression on my face if that happens. Izuku explains in his intimidation of Mirko's voice. Oi, watch who you are intimidating, brat. Mirko says as tick marks appear on her forehead. Izuku smirks as puffs into green smoke and reveals an exact copy of Mirko. I'll P&D you into the ground, Grandma. Izuku says in Mirko's voice as this is the work of his trickster form, 5 tails. Oh, you want to go, brat? Mirko yells as she gets into a lunging stance. Bring on, Grandma. The fake Mirko yells out as they both rush at each other and start trading blows. As both Mirkos see that they are even, they start going faster and faster until they both are just a blur of punches and kicks. After about 5 minutes have passed, both Mirkos separate and are both panting a lot, before the Mirko facing the ocean becomes a blur and converts back to his 5-tail state. Curly, messy green hair and green eyes, tails and ears. Holy kid, I didn't think that you would last the entire duration of your transformation against me. Mirko huffs out, clearly exhausted from fighting. Well, huff, it's not surprising since huff when 5 tails transform into someone, I get all of their physical traits and physical power, and since your quirk affects your physical power and traits I can copy your strength quite easily, Grandma. Izuku gives Mirko a SHT-eating grin as he puffs into smoke and goes back to 0 tails form. Stop calling me Grandma, you demon brat. Mirko huffs as she gives Izuku an evil eye. Sorry, but not until you stop calling me a brat, Grandma. Izuku says as he keeps his SHT-eating grin on knowing he won the argument. Mirko takes a second to process before she gives out a sigh of defeat before giving Izuku a serious look. Listen, Izuku, are you sure you are ready for the recommendation exams tomorrow? Mirko genuinely asks her trainee. Izuku thinks for a second before giving a cocktail smile. Of course I am. I can't wait to see what people might be my classmates and/or future rivals. Izuku simply responds. Mirko sighs as she looks over her trainee and definitely sees the improvement he built over the past month. Hey, do your best out there, brat. And don't be afraid to use your forms in public. Some might be a truly bad idea, but keep in mind that they are still your power. If you reject it, you might lose control over that form. Mirko says, causing Izuku to stop walking and just stand there while clenching his fists. I know, Mirko. But thanks for that. Izuku says as he walks home. I really do need to get over my fear of using certain forms in public. 3, 7 and 8 tails. Will I ever use you in public, or will I just cast them away? No, I will use them soon, but there is always going to be that fear. Izuku reminds himself as he reaches his home. He breathes in and out before opening the door. Mom, I'm home. Day of the recommendation exams. Mom, I'll be heading out. Izuku yells as he puts on his special gender-changing clothes that he bought when he found out that he can switch genders. Be careful out there, sweetie. Inko yells out to Izuku as he leaves. Inko clenches her fists as watches her baby boy leave and can't help but think. Izuku, I'm sorry for not supporting you when you were quirkless. Please be careful out there. I will, Mom. Izuku replies before shutting the door. Don't worry, Mom, I won't do anything stupid during the test. Izuku then starts his hour-long walk to UA. 1 hour later. I'm finally here. I won't screw up Mom and Mirko. Izuku says to himself as he walks into his future school. Each step he takes, the more confident he is that he will get into this school. When he eventually makes it to the front doors, he sees a sign that says to enter and go to the introduction hall. Izuku looks at the sign and moves into the school and follows the signs for the hall he is supposed to go in. On his way to the hall, Izuku starts coming up with a list people he knows who will be recommended to these exams and can only think of 2 people who would even make it in. Momo Yaoyorozu and Shoto Todoroki. They are the only one I know of that are being recommended and will make it to Tai Hero course. Who knows, I might run into others I'm not aware of. Izuku says to himself as he comes to the hall doors. Izuku breathes in and out before opening the giant doors and entering the room. Upon entering, Izuku sees the 2 he predicted to pass already here, plus a bunch of people Izuku didn't recognize. Hello, little listener. Please state your name, quirk, and who recommended you. The hero known as Present Mike yelled out, causing Izuku to jump a foot in the air. Izuku breathes really hard before looking up and responding to Present Mike. My name is Izuku Midoriya, quirk, tail of the 9 tails, and the hero who recommended me was the bunny hero, Mirko. Izuku quietly responds as to not let any other people hear his personal information. Present mic voice name, Izuku Made Quirk. Tail of the 9 tails. This quirk allows the user to transform into a total of 10 forms going from 0 tails to 9 tails. Each tail has its own unique powers and drawbacks. Some of the forms have very hostile drawbacks and could result in a lot of people getting hurt if the user loses control. Mirko actually recommended someone. Present mic says in a normal voice as to not alert the other participants. Let me see Izuku Made. Here it is, and it seems Mirko actually recommended someone, huh? Mike was shocked by that revelation. Well, little listener, please proceed where the other participants are waiting. The written portion will start in about 20 minutes. Mike yelled, as Izuku walked to the hall where he saw about 20 others already in the stands, all spaced out except one tall guy who was currently talking really loudly to one guy with blue skin. The blue skin guy looked like he wanted to die, while the tall guy just kept on talking until he noticed Izuku entered and walked over to him, while the blue guy gave Izuku a sympathetic look before going back to whatever he was going beforehand. Hi there, fellow person. I am Inasa Yurashi and you are. Inasa shouts in his normal cheerful self. Present mic voice name, Inasa Yurashi Quirk. Whirlwind. This quirk allows the user to make and control strong gusts of wind that are strong enough to lift a small building. This quirk can even let the user fly. Drawback, none. The anime, light novels, manga, and the wiki don't say anything about a drawback. Hey, I'm Izuku Made. Nice to meet you, Yurashi. Izuku says to Inasa, who just smiles widely. Nice to meet you too, Made. Let's both do our best in these exams. But I'll let you know I'm going to be first. Inasa yells out, gaining groans and eye rolls from everyone in the room. What is your quirk, Made? Inasa yells out. Sorry, Yurashi, but you're going to have to wait till the physical exams to find out. Izuku says, giving Inasa a sly smile. Oh, I see, Made. Well then let us both do our best in these exams. Inasa yells as he and Izuku both head over to their seats. After a couple of minutes of waiting and no one else showing up, Present Mike enters the hall. Hello, little listeners, and welcome to the first part of the recommendation exams. You will see under your desks that you have a pile of papers. That is your first test, a written exam. You will be given 2 hours to complete this exam. When you are finished, please put your papers in the basket in the front of the hall. There are currently 24 people here, but only those who get a 75% or above can pass this first part, so work fast and efficiently. Without any further ado, let this exam begin. Present Mike shouts before moonwalking out of the hall. Most of the students just stare at the door with a bruh face before moving on to the test. Most people were struggling with the test, but students like Izuku and Momo were breezing through it. After about 30 minutes, Izuku gets up and turns in his paper and is shortly followed by Momo. When the 1 hour mark hits, a couple others turn it in and the rest slowly turn it in until the last exam is turned in and Present Mike enters the hall again. Hello, little listeners, please wait here for a half an hour and wait for your scores to be announced. Present Mike yells out as he grabs the stack of paper and leaves the hall. Midoriya, how do you think you did on that exam? I did pretty good. Insa says loudly as he approaches his green-haired friend. The questions were really easy, but I'm surprised someone finished a minute after I did. Hope that they know what they are doing. Izuku says as he leans back in his chair and looks up to see Inasa standing next to him and smiling down at him. Izuku gulps as he stands up and says to his tall friend, "You made me think for a second that you were going to murder me." Izuku shivers at the thought while Inasa just laughs. Ha! I like your jokes, Izuku. What do you say to being my friend? Inasa shouts as he shoots his hand forward for a handshake. Izuku takes a couple of seconds to decide before taking Inasa's hand and shaking it. Sure, Yurashi, let's be friends and call me Izuku. Haha, well then you have to call me Inasa then, Izuku. He shouts out as he laughs somewhat creepily. Deal, Inasa. Izuku says as he softly smiles and sits down again, hearing the doors open. Hello, children. The R-rated hero Midnight says as she cracks her WHP and causes a couple of the boys, Izuku, Inasa, and Todoroki, to blush upon seeing her. Here on this screen you will see what your scores from the written exams are and who has passed. Midnight says, as a screen lowers and a projector shows the results. 1 Izuku Midoriya 100%, 2 Momo Yaoyorozu 100%, 3 Setsuna Tokage 98%, 4, 5 Shoto Todoroki 91%, 6, 7 Inasa Yurashi 88%, 8, 9, 10 Juzo Hananuki 80%, 11, 12. 75% the students who don't make it all cry out in disappointment and pain as an ectoplasm clone comes and drags them away. Yaoyorozu looked at the screen in disappointment and was about to ask a question before Midnight interrupted her. You will see that some of you have the same score, so to decide who got the higher place, whoever submitted it first gets the highest ranking place. Midnight explains, but that still doesn't get rid of her Momo's pout. Dang Izuku, I didn't know that you were that smart that you got the highest score. Inasa looks at the greenhead cause he didn't know that Izuku wasn't that smart since he already figured he was smart but not that smart. Now since all the people who failed have been removed for the exam, we are going on to the second part of the recommendation exams, the practical exam. Midnight calls out as she starts to walk away and all of those who passed follow her to the second portion of the exam. After about 5 minutes of walking, they come to an open field with a variety of things surrounding them. Welcome to the practical exam. Today for you guys we have a race that lets us see you combat skills, strengths and strategy. This race has 5 parts. The fall pit, a jungle maze, a climbing cliff, a fight against a bunch of ectoplasm clones, and for the last stretch a 1,000-meter dash to the finish line. For the 4th part you must defeat a total of 5 clients before moving on. We will split everyone into 4 teams of 3. Each person will race against other members of their team to try to get to the end first. Each team will go one at a time, while the other will wait in a spirit area so as to not let the other team strategize on how to clear this exam. Now look to your left and you will see who your teams are and who you are racing against. Midnight cracks her WHP as the screen next to her shows the team lineups. Team 1-1 Momo Yaoyorozu 2, 3. Team 2-1 Setsuna Tokage 2, 3. Team 3-1 Juzo Hananuki 2, 3. Team 4-1 Izuku Midoriya 2 Shoto Todoroki 3 Inasa Yurashi. Alright, so may Team 1 please stay while I escort the other to the watching room. Midnight says as she practically pushed the rest of the examinees to the waiting room. After getting into the waiting room, Izuku gets approached by Inasa. Hello there Izuku. It seems like we are going to face off against each other along with Endeavor's son. Inasa bellows out as he stares down on Izuku. Inasa's is like 6 feet 2 inches I'm guessing, whereas Izuku I think is about 5 feet 6 inches. I guess you're right, but it's going to be a while depending on how long it takes the other teams. Izuku bluntly says, as he just wants to sleep right now to gain as much energy that he knows he is going to expand while doing this. You're right as well Izuku. Ha. Inasa laughs really loudly as he pats Izuku's back really hard in what Izuku assumes was meant to be gentle pats, but figures Inasa didn't realize how hard his pats were. After about 10 minutes Team 2 was called, and after another 10 minutes Team 3 was called, and finally after another 10 minutes it was their turn. May Team 4 please exit the waiting area and enter the race. Midnight calls out as all 3 of the boys follow Midnight to the racing field. Please go to the starting line and we'll tell you boys when to go. Midnight yells out as all 3 boys get into position. Good luck out there you two. Inasa shouts at them. Good luck to you Inasa. Izuku replies as he prepares to transform. Shoto just looks forward and ignores the other 2. Ready now 3, 2, 1 inch Midnight calls out as Izuku gets on all 4s, confusing the other 2. And go! Midnight calls out as a burst of smoke erupts out of Izuku, blinding both Inasa and Shoto. Whoa, what the dash! Inasa yells as the smoke dissipates and Izuku is no longer standing where he was a few seconds ago. When Inasa looks forward, he sees a small green blur sprinting down the track. Hey, no fair! Inasa yells out as he chases after Izuku and Todoroki, who was only blinded for a few seconds before skating down the track on his ice path. After running for a bit, they come to the pitfall obstacle. Izuku clears it easily by using his built-up speed to jump the entire obstacle and continue running. Inasa just flew over it and Shoto just slid across it on his ice. At the second obstacle was the forest maze. Izuku shrinks to the tiniest size his one-tail form can go, about the size of a large mouse right now, and just weaved through the trees and cleared it after a minute. Inesa again just flew over it and took second place while Shoto created an ice bridge and slid across it again. At the third obstacle Izuku had to slow down a lot and return to normal size to hop from rock to climb the cliff. Inesa once again flew over the obstacle and took first place from Izuku. Shoto also built an ice ramp and made it to the top, taking second place with Izuku only a few feet behind him. Next was the villain simulation fight. Inesa just used his wind to rip through 5 clones and blew away the others that were in his path and flew toward the final part. Shoto used his ice to piece a couple of clones and made a gliding dash toward the last section. Izuku's fox form seemed to glow green as he was at the start of 4th obstacle one moment and at the other end with a couple of clones being ripped to shreds the next moment. All the boys arrived at the start of the 1,000-meter dash at the same time as they all tore across the field at max speed, staying to get ahead of one another. When it looked like they were at a tie at the last 100 meters, they all made a dash and looked like they all crossed at the same time. Dang, that was the best competition I've ever had. What do you say, Izuku and Todor dash? Inesa froze as looked at Shoto and saw a very hateful look in his eye as he was glaring at the scores on the board and saw he placed 3rd in the race. The same hateful look that Endeavor gave Inesa all those years ago. Inesa's face darkened as he says, "If that's how it is, then I'll withdraw my application to you dash." Inesa is stopped by a slap to the back from the now human Izuku. Inesa, don't let things like that get to you. Todoroki might have a reason for being so hateful right now, so just calm down and don't lower yourself to do something terrible out of spite or hatred. Izuku calmly says to his friend as he looks up and sees the scores for the race. First, Inesa Yorashi 5 minutes 21.01 seconds. Second, Izuku Midoriya 5 minutes 21.2 seconds. Third, Shoto Todoroki 5 minutes 21.3 seconds. Congrats Inesa, you won this race. Izuku softly claps for his friend who stares at the board in shock. I only won by 1/10 of a millisecond. Dang, I knew that you were an interesting person, Izuku. I'm glad that you are my friend. Inesa shouts as he slams his head into the ground and makes it crack. I'm happy that you're glad, but aren't you hurt by doing that? Izuku asks out of concern for his new friend. Not at all. It didn't hurt a bit. Inesa shouts as a bit of BLD rolls down his forehead. Izuku can only give him a neutral face look as all 3 of them are escorted to the final room. I see that you all have made it back and in record time as well, congrats. Midnight says as an ectoplasm clone walks in the room and gives her a sheet of paper. Ahem. Now for the final. Scores and who will go to which hero course class and who will just have to go to another school. For class 1A, we have Izuku Midoriya, Shoto Todoroki, Inesa Yorashi, and finally Momo Yaoyorozu. Midnight announces as Izuku and Inesa give a smile, whereas Momo just lets out a sigh of relief and Shoto just glares into space. Now for class 1B, we have Setsuna Tokage and Juzo Hananuki. The rest of you, I'm sorry, but you didn't make it into UA. Please leave the school grounds in the next half an hour or we will SERT you out ourselves. Midnight cracks her WHP as several students leave the hall grumbling about how bad they did or how unfair the practical exam was. Now then, for you all, let me say on behalf of the entire UA staff, welcome to your hero academia. Midnight cracks her WP again and lets the faces of the students light up and cheer. Ha! Yes, I made it into UA. Inesa shouts at the top of his lungs while looking at the ceiling and causes the building to shake a bit from the massive sound wave. Hee see that, Mirko, Mom and Fox, I made it in. Izuku says to himself as he can't help but grin. Shoto just glares into empty space, glaring at what no one knows, do. I really deserve 1A. Momo looks up and can't help but feel disappointed in herself for being called last for 1A. Anything works for me as long as I'm in UA. Setsuna says as a grin grows on her face as well. Ah man, why was I called last? Juzo coming at the fact that he was the very last one called. We are going to have a dormitory system installed this year due to the increased amount of villain attacks. You will be living in the dorms a week after school officially starts, so make sure to tell who you're living with this or you can't go to UA. You recommendation students will come to school a day early and get a tour of the building and a summary of your classes. Midnight explains to the students who all look at her in shock or relief or a mixture of both. For those who want to watch the normal entrance exams, please show up 10 minutes before the gates open for the normal students. And with that you may all leave and once again welcome to UA. Midnight says to the students who all turn around and leave UA. When they all exit, UA Inasa walks up to Izuku. Hey Izuku, let's exchange our phone numbers so we can contact each other. Inasa shouts out to Izuku who was about to head to the train station. Sure, why not? Izuku responds to Inasa as he grabs his phone and exchanges his number Inasa. When they are done they both head their separate ways home. As Izuku waits for his train to arrive, he can't help but look up with some tears in his eyes. Mom, I made it. I won't ever be weak again. When you are the one close to breaking down, I'll be there, don't worry. Izuku clenches his fists as he walks onto the train that arrived. This is my first step. I won't ever let this moment go to waste. Thank you Mirko and Fox for giving me this opportunity. Izuku says to himself as he looks up and can't help but give a wide smile. Tails Power Update, 0 Tails. Passive, IQ Izuku in this form has the IQ score of 275 1 Tails. Special move, Speed Burst. Allows Izuku to glow green and give off a burst of speed that rips apart everything in its path no matter the hardness or thickness of the object or person in front of him. Izuku can control the sharpness and power of the slashes. Can only be used once every hour. 3 Tails. Technique. Fire dance while doing any form of dancing while using 3 tails increases the potency of the fire from Izuku's tails and general firepower. 9 Tails. Special move. Tail Club. By winding all 9 of his tails, Izuku can harden it and use it to slam into anything and launch almost any object or person with a lot of built-up bludgeoning power. Can do serious damage to the hero Fat Gum. Ultimate move. 9 Tails Sky Judgment. By being high in the air, Izuku can spread out his tails and use his fur manipulation to grow his tails out in size and shape the ends of the tails into the shape of a fist and harden them as much as he wants, and finally launch all of them down at his target, completely pummeling the target and dealing a lot of damage. I want to clear up some things before I start this chapter. Okay, so first off, after Izuku got his powers, his mother transferred him to another school, where he met a member of his future class in UA. Izuku told everyone that he had a quirk that turned him into a fox, so he wasn't lying, but he wasn't telling the full truth either. Izuku was only in that school for a year or two before moving on to junior high. A different one from Katsuki's. The sludge villain attack never happened because Izuku never went to Aldra Junior High and the sludge villain didn't find anyone in time to take hostage. So All Might got him without problem and the sludge villain never escaped because All Might wasn't in a hurry to get away from Izuku before his time ran out. Izuku has another ability with his powers, but it will come up later, so don't worry. If I put something in the story that doesn't quite make sense, it will later on. Thoughts, voices, talking to Izuku Day. The recommended students enter school. By Mom, I'll see you after school orientation. Izuku in his 0 Tails form yells as he puts on his shoes and green sweatshirt that reads, Fox, in kanji. By Izuku, please be safe. Inko yells as she tosses Izuku his backpack, which he grabs out of the air. Thanks Mom, I will. Izuku yells as he runs out the door and runs to the nearest bus station. Izuku's thoughts. It's been an entire month since the recommendation exams, and today is the day that the 6 people who passed the recommendation exams get a tour of the school and a rundown of events that will happen during our first year at UA. Mirko has been using my training a lot lately. I'm able to use all of the forms, but I'm at a stopping point on all of the forms. In all my forms, I'm just not able to increase my power at all. It's as if there's some mental and physical barrier I've hit and can't overcome right now. I haven't shown Mirko my 8, 6, and 2 tails yet. 8 and 6 tails have grown to be very stubborn and refuse to be used in front of other people or just straight up taught me in my mind. 2 tails can kill someone if they are hit with the chaos energy I can use. When we spar, I'm able to defeat Mirko with 4 tails because I don't ever let her get her footing and either crush or bury her underground until she gives up. I can match her with 5 tails, but can never fully defeat her. The rest of my tails can keep up for about a minute until Mirko either punches or kicks me in the gut, knocking the wind out of me and or sending me into a nearby wall, leaving a me-shaped hole in the wall. Unfortunately, I know she doesn't go above 50% of her true power, so me defeating her doesn't really mean anything meaningful. End of Izuku's thoughts. 20 minutes later, Izuku finally gets off his bus and is immediately met by a huge figure. Izuku. Good morning, how are you? Inasa yells as he walks toward Izuku. I am good, Inasa. How are you doing? Izuku says as he is slightly startled by Inasa's loudness. I'm fine. But more importantly, I'm excited for getting this tour of the school, are you? Inasa bellows as he and Izuku start walking toward UA. Yeah, it's going to be exciting. I can't wait to see who is in our class from the normal exams. Izuku says as he daydreams about the amazing quirks they have and the amount of notes he will write down. Yeah, I bet there will be at least one who is strong like me, you and Todoroki. Inasa bitterly says as looks forward with a dark look on his face. Izuku looks at Inasa's dark look and sighs as he jumps and smacks the back of Inasa's head. Don't let what happened in the past hold you back, Inasa. People can change, but it's not easy if they are set in their ways. So don't become obsessed with your hatred. Izuku looks up at Inasa with puppy dog eyes, who looks at Izuku and instantly falters and turns his head around in embarrassment. Fine, but I won't forget. Inasa says as he grips his hand hard. Let's not get distracted, we still need to get to UA for the tour. Izuku says as he starts to jog out of the bus station with Inasa a few seconds behind him. Izuku and Inasa turn their run to UA into a race and run/sprint all the way to UA. Izuku ends up winning by a large margin because of his physical body training he did with Mirko. Demon Izuku, you run fast without that quirk of yours. You must have trained hard. Inasa yells/comments, causing Izuku to blush. Yeah, I train every day with the hero that recommended me. Izuku responds as he rubs the back of his head as he and Inasa toward the UA entrance that is right in front of him. Izuku's face darkens as continues to talk. I say train, but I was more like hell. Izuku shivers as he remembers the amount of time Mirko kicked and or punched him into a wall or something really. It sounds like it was hard, but it definitely paid off. Inasa says as he flexes his arm, revealing a smooth, muscular, and toned arm. I did a lot of physical training as well over the last month. Izuku looks back at Inasa and can't help but admire the amount of muscle he built up over the last month. Izuku and Inasa both continue walking until they reach the front gates of UA. You ready, Inasa? Izuku asks as he looks at his tall, loud friend who looks like he's about to explode from excitement. Izuku sighs as he sees Inasa trying to hold himself back. Just let it out already, dash. Oh, I'm finally in UA. Inasa screams at the top of his lungs, causing Izuku to fall to the ground and clutch his ears in pain. The shout was so powerful that Izuku could see shockwaves move away from them. Hey Izuku, are you okay? Inasa says as he lowers a hand down to Izuku, who eventually takes his hand and stands up. Why, I'm good. It's just that the wind pressure from that yell knocked me off my feet. Izuku nervously chuckled as he started walking through the front gate of UA with Inasa a step behind him. Izuku and Inasa both looked ahead with blazing determination in mind as they both reached the front door where a pro hero was waiting. Looks like Present Mike was waiting for us, huh? Izuku says as he picks up his pace until Present Mike finally notices them. There you are, little listeners. You two must be Midoriya and Yorashi, am I right? Present Mike shouts, making Izuku and Inasa flinch a bit at the sudden amount of noise. After a few moments, Izuku responds. Yes sir, that is us. Present Mike looks at them for a few seconds and Izuku could have sworn he thought he heard mixed thoughts say, what's up with kids these days? Before turning around and with a tear dropping down his face he says, well, since all of you listeners are here now, let me lead you on to your tour. Mike then starts walking into the building with all of the kids shortly behind him. Izuku looks at all of the other students before his eyes lands on Shoto Todoroki, but every time he tries to engage him in a conversation, Present Mike keeps on interrupting him, yelling out different parts of UA and their teachers for the next 3 years. If they made it that far. Just a warning for you young ones in 1A. Your homeroom teacher loves hazing his new students. Present Mike says as all of the recommendation students look at each other with worry because of that bizarre warning. And with that we are done with our tour. Feel free to talk for a bit, but please leave in the next 30 minutes. Thank you and goodbye, little listeners. Mike shouts before turning around and running away. Everyone stays still for a few seconds before Momo speaks up. Since we have time, let's get to know each other. She suggests as Shoto looks around like he wants to get out of there but can't find his driver yet, so he sighs and looks at everyone else with a face that reads, "I don't want to be here. I'm out of here, see you guys later." Juzo says as he walks away, clearly not wanting to speak to anyone right now. "Here, I'll go first." Setsuna speaks up as she backs up and separates her arms and hands from her body. "My name's Setsuna Tokage, but call me Setsuna, and my quirk is called Lizard Tail Splitter." Present Mike voice name, Setsuna Tokage alias, not applicable quirk, Lizard Tail Splitter. This quirk allows the user to split their body into pieces and control them. This allows the user to even split off their eyes, ears, nose, and mouth from their body. If a piece of the user's body is destroyed, it will regenerate when the user puts their body back together. Drawback: if part of the user's body gets captured, the user can rebuild themselves fully, leading to them not being able to regenerate. I can split apart my body into pieces. Right now my limit is around 100 pieces. Setsuna says as she moves her arms over to Izuku and picks him up by his sweatshirt and lifts him up into the air. "That's a cool quirk." Izuku says with stars in his eyes and picks up a notebook and pen out of thin air and flips to the nearest item page and starts writing down notes at an insane speed, making everyone look at him in confusion and shock. "If a piece of your body gets destroyed, do you regenerate it, and if so, how long does it take?" Setsuna looks at Izuku with confusion written on her face before awkwardly chuckling and responding, "Yeah, I can regenerate my missing pieces, but I need to assemble the rest of my body to regenerate. The more pieces I'm missing, the longer the regeneration," she says as she puts Izuku back on the ground and walks over to him and puts her arm on his shoulders. "What's your quirk, Broccoli Head?" Setsuna asks in a teasing tone, but it doesn't seem to even affect Izuku. "My name is Izuku Midoriya, but please call me Izuku. My quirk is called Tail of 9 Tails. It allows me to turn into a total of 10 forms. 9 forms are the fox forms, while the 10th form is my quirkless state. Each of the 10 forms have their own unique powers. I can even change my gender depending on the form. The form I'm in right now is Zero Tails, aka my quirkless form. The powers of this form are supreme IQ and self-thought acceleration." Izuku explains as he continues to write things down as he is talking. "That's definitely interesting," Momo says as she studies the timid boy in front of her. "So that's how you got a 100% by using your IQ powers. So the only one who actually got 100% without using a quirk to help them was me." Izuku could practically see her ego grow and was about to say that he didn't even use the IQ part of his powers but decided not to. "I think I'll call you Foxy for now on," Setsuna Ten says as she gives Izuku a eating grin, who in turn gives her a "I don't give a f look," as expected from one of my powerful friends. Inasa says with excitement, while Shoto just glares at everyone as his family car drives up and walks to it without saying a word to anyone else. All 4 of them talk for a few more minutes before Momo's and Setsuna's rides come and they leave. Inasa and Izuku walk to the train station before waving to each other and go their own separate ways. "This day has been fun, but I know that something bad will come for me tomorrow." Having increased intelligence from 0 Tails and infinite wisdom from the sage ability from 8 Tails makes it impossible to ignore the signs of irony. "What a bother," Izuku mumbles to himself as he walks onto his train. Halfway through his ride, Izuku looks up as the train exits a tunnel and he sees the city with the evening light hitting the buildings at the right angle that a few people on the train take out their phones and start taking photos. As much as this scene is appealing, the truth is that it's only appealing because of the amount of pollution the filthy humans cause. This world has been and will always be ruined, and there is no way to fix it. A soft, feminine, childish voice says in Izuku's head. Izuku can't help but sigh and silently nod. "I can't help but fully agree." This world will forever be ruined in more than one way. First day of UA. While rushing to his first day of UA in his school uniform, Izuku makes it to the train station on time. While traveling on the train ride to UA and his meet-up with Inesa, Izuku has his eyes closed as he is in deep thought. I wish I could reveal my true powers, but I know that I need to keep a lot of my powers hidden. But what forms should I reveal to the class? And Izuku says as he reaches to the voices in his head, I think the only forms for right now you should use are 0, 1, 3, 5, and 9 tails. That being said, since I'm 9 tails, try not reveal your whole hand while using my form. A gruff male voice says with a bit of anger. Only use 2, 4, and 7 tails if you really need to, but never use me or 6 tails since we are your trump cards. The feminine childish voice adds. I was thinking the same thing. Thanks. And Izuku says to the voices as he walks out of his train and is met by the screaming and bulky figure of Inesa. Izuku, you ready for UA? Inesa yells out so loudly that everyone in the train station either flinches hard or drops to the ground because of either the air pressure or the pain of Inesa's loud yell. After straightening himself out, Izuku manages to say, yeah, I'm totally pumped up for this, but at the same time I have a strange feeling that there is something dangerous waiting for me there. Izuku responds as he goes from talking to mumbling toward the end of the response. Me to Izuku. Inesa says, completely missing the dangerous part. Izuku can't help but sigh and admire his friend's confidence, even if it came with his slight airheadness. Let's just get to UA and start our hero careers. Izuku says with a big smile and starts to exit the train station with Inesa, but not before turning around and yelling, sorry for the disturbance, we are just excited for high school. Izuku then turns around and explodes into smoke and turns into his one-tail form. Why are you a fox right now, Izuku? Inesa asks as Izuku climbs up his back and sits on top of Inesa's head and on his hat. Ha, so you want to ride, huh? Well, I'll let you up there for now, but you need to get off when we get to UA. Inesa says as he feels Izuku tap his head with his paw, indicating he understands. Well then I'll walk there so as to not knock you off. Inesa says as starts walking to UA with Izuku on his head, looking around as he walks. During the walk to UA, Inesa was just looking around and talking to the fox that was Izuku on his head, while a bunch of people were whispering stuff like, dang, look at that tall guy. Is that a fox on his head? 2. Why is there a green fox on a tall guy's head? After a couple more minutes of walking, Izuku jumps off Inesa's head and explodes into smoke and stands up in his Zero Tails form when they get into eyesight of the UA gate. About time, Izuku, I was getting so many weird looks by having a green fox on my head. Inesa chuckles at the amount of weird and bizarre looks people were giving him. Well, let's get going and find the 1A classroom. Izuku says as he walks toward UA. Watch out! Someone yells from behind the two boys, and only Inesa was able to step out of the way on time, and dodged a pink missile flyby, but unfortunately Izuku wasn't so lucky and both he and the pink person went flying. UG. Izuku groans as he opens his eyes and sees a pink-headed girl with crosshairs in her eyes looking at him. On top of him. Izuku was too shocked to say anything, but the girl on top of him sure wasn't. Hey there, sorry for crashing into you, my bad. But are you going to the hero course? Because if you are, make me your engineer. My name's Mei Hatsumi, the heir of the Hatsumi Support Company. Mei quickly says as she stays on top of Izuku, who is still processing the information. Hey, I'm in the hero course as well. Does the offer extend to me as well? Inesa says as he grabs Izuku's head and picks him up and brings him to his feet, as Mei stands up as well. Of course, big guy. Mei says with a wicked grin before she turns her head back to Izuku. You were the fox on top of his head, right? Mei says while pointing at Inesa. Why, yes, I was. Izuku says somewhat shocked. How did you figure that out? Izuku says with a bit of curiosity in his voice. Well, you have green hair and the fox was green, so I assumed you were the same thing. Mei excitedly says as she starts to grope Izuku while simultaneously getting his measurements. What are you doing? Izuku stutters out as he is completely shocked by this. You literally have 4 female forms and you have seen yourself naked multiple times in your male and female forms. Why is this getting to you? The gruff voice asks disappointedly. Shut up. I'm still not used to others touching me. Especially since the only physical contact I've had in the past 5 years was Mirko kicking my butt, and my mom giving me motherly hugs. How do you expect me to react to someone GRPNG me? Izuku screams back in his mind to the voices. Not like a cat that hates water. The feminine childish voice responded. Point taken. Izuku says back as he relaxes his body and just lets Mei grope him since he knows that he can't escape the crazy inventor. After 3 minutes of just standing there with everyone looking at Mei, who is Jirbin Izuku, Mei finally stops. Thanks Foxy, I'll see you later. Mei says as she bolts off toward the support course with yelling, it's time to make some babies. Both Inesa and Izuku look at each other and both silently agree to not talk about what the crazy woman said. Well, we should get to class before the bell rings so that we aren't late on the first day. Inesa suddenly says as he grabs Izuku's uniform collar and basically drags him inside. After dragging Izuku up 3 flights of stairs and making a bunch of wrong turns, Izuku finally says, Inesa, the first-year students are on the first floor and we are on the left side of the school. Inesa looks away embarrassed and laughs it off as he drags Izuku back downstairs and through the halls with a lot of people giving Inesa and Izuku very confused looks, but just let it go since Izuku didn't seem to be struggling against Inesa. Round the corner and on the left there should be the 1A classroom. Izuku instructs Inesa, who is still dragging Izuku, around a corner and comes to a stop in front of a very large door with a very large 1 on the door. Dang, that's huge. Is all Inesa said as he pushed open a large door and was met with pure chaos. As he was still dragging Izuku. Shut up F4 eyes. A familiar loud Pomeranian shouted at a blue-haired teen with glasses on who seemed to be doing some form of demon hand chops. My name is Tenya Ilda and that is very disrespectful. What are you, a foul-mouthed delinquent? Ilda yells back as he continues his demonic hand chops. Deminute, those two aren't pretty girls. A short purple-headed midget muttered out that was barely heard over the chaos the class was causing. As Inesa continues to look at his new class with a look of excitement, Izuku carefully looks around the room and tries to see who will be a troublemaker and who will be a nice person, but as he was looking around he was a big yellow caterpillar that with closer observation was a yellow sleeping bag with a hobo-looking guy's face sticking out of it. When Izukus and the hobo's eyes met, the hobo motioned for Izuku to keep quiet about him, so Izuku looked the other way and saw none other than his ex-best friend / ex-bully Katsuki Bakugo. Hello everyone, nice to meet you. Inesa yells out, causing all other conversations to stop out of being startled but the sudden yell. Tisk, no one cares, Baldy. Katsuki says as his eyes study the new arrival and his eyes widen when he sees the familiar green fluffy hair of his ex-friend / victim. He lets out a low growl as he starts to charge up his quirk. I am not bald. Inesa yells out as he takes off his hat and shows his buzz-cut hair. Hey Inesa, mind lifting me up and/or letting me go? Izuku speaks up so as to not be dragged across the room when Inesa finds his seat. Oh yeah, I forgot you were there for a second. Inesa nervously chuckles as he hauls Izuku up and lets him go. Izuku then spends the next 30 seconds straightening his uniform out before turning toward Katsuki. Hello Bakugo. Long time no see, friend. Izuku bluntly says while doing the air quotation marks around the word, friend. Deku. How the hell did you get into UAUBSTRD? You weren't there at normal entrance exams and no hero with any common sense would ever recommend someone as useless as you. Katsuki barks back at Izuku, who had to use all of his training to not shrink back after that comment. I don't care what you think, but I got in fair and square through the recommendation exams, so I'm going to take my seat before class starts. Izuku calmly says with a blank face as he walks past Katsuki, who was about to lightly blast his shoulder but not before Izuku whispered, I wonder how UA would react to your illegal quirk usage on others and the fact you left me to die in an alleyway 5 years ago. As he walked by and caused him to freeze and look at Izuku with shocked eyes, but not long before it turned into a murderous glare. The two boys locked eyes and entered into a staring contest made the air around them extremely tense. Nobody would dare to stop the two. Unless you were insane and had a death wish. In which Inesa apparently did. Hey Izuku, you know this rude JRK. Inesa says as he somehow appeared behind Izuku, making some of the others to flinch back. Yeah, I do, Inesa. He is my ex-childhood friend who ended the friendship over something as stupid as a quirk. Izuku says as he doesn't take his eyes off Katsuki, who momentarily pauses his anger before glaring back again. Inasa, sit down please so I can do what we talked about when we got here. Izuku kindly asks as Inasa nods and takes his seat in the very back. You. Izuku says as he points at a French kid who seemed to be sparkling, who looks over at Izuku. Based on that belt you are wearing and the fact that you are literally sparkling, I say you must have a light-based quirk that shoots out of your belly button. Am I right? Izuku says all this while still staring at Katsuki, who glances over at the French teen, who gives a nod with a shocked expression, while Katsuki's face melts into a half-fearfully half-pissed expression. Moving on. Izuku says as he continues to point at the pink alien girl behind the French teen. Based on your skin color, you most likely have an acid quirk that lets you shoot it out from all over your body. Izuku gets yet another shocked nod. Izuku continues down the line of students while giving guesses on what their quirks might be. A frog quirk. An engine quirk that lets you increase your speed in your legs. A 5-point contact quirk, but not sure on what it does. A tail appendage quirk. An electricity quirk. A hardening type of quirk. I don't know what your quirk is, it's a bit confusing. The guy with a rock-shaped head looked at Izuku with a bit of relief since he didn't guess what his quirk was based on his appearance. A quirk that lets you consume something and it increases your overall and physical strength. A dupli arm quirk. A quirk that has to do with hearing and sounds. A tape quirk. A sentient quirk that deals with darkness. A half and half quirk. An invisibility quirk. An explosion quirk based on your sweat. A quirk that has to do with the ball on your head, but based on what you said when I walked in, it has to do with sticky ball. A creation quirk. And my tall friend has a wind quirk. Izuku manages to list off, leaving the entire room in silence at how this one person figures out what most of their quirks are by being in the same room for 5 minutes. And finally, a fellow fox quirk. Izuku points toward a girl with pink hair and pink fox ears, who looks at Izuku with a bit of curiosity because of the way he said her quirk. That's a bit concerning that you managed to guess a basic part of my quirk without even talking to me. The red-headed boy with sharp features said what everyone in the room was thinking. That's definitely interesting that the kid managed to rattle off most of his classmates' quirks without interacting with them. Aizawa thought to himself as he was about to stand up and do his classic caterpillar reveal, but Izuku spoke up before he did. And last but not least, our homeroom teacher. Underground pro hero, Eraserhead. Quirk, Erasure. Izuku said as he looked at the podium where Aizawa was hiding. Aizawa couldn't help but smirk at the fact that the kid figured him out with one glance. Alright, that was impressive with what you did with our quirks, but we haven't even seen our teacher yet, who by the way is late. Ilda said as his demonic hand chopped the air. Sensei, you should get up. Izuku says, completely ignoring Ilda. Who are you talking to? Ilda yells as he hand chops the air again. He was talking to me. Aizawa grumbles out as he rises up from the ground with his sleeping bag still around him. That has got to be the ugliest caterpillar I've ever seen. The boy with the yellow hair and electric quirk absent-mindedly said, I'm not a caterpillar, I'm a pro hero and your homeroom teacher. Aizawa said as he unzipped his sleeping bag and it fell to the floor, revealing him in his hero costume. The ugly caterpillar evolved into a hobo. What are quirks anymore? The electric kid spoke up. Class started 5 minutes ago and you still dare to talk, huh kid? Eraser says as he activates his quirk and his scarf starts to float ominously. If I were a villain, all of you but the broccoli head would be dead since he notices me. Aizawa says as he deactivated his quirk. Introduce yourselves and wake me up when you're done. Aizawa says as he puts his sleeping bag back on and crawls back under his desk. After a few seconds of silence, someone steps up to the front of class. Well, I'll go first. My name's Mina Ishido, and my quirk is acid. The girl with pink skin and in yellow horns announces, Hey, I'll go next. The spiky red-haired kid said, My name is Ejiro Kirishima, and my quirk is hardening body. Moi is Yuga Oyama, and I can shoot dazzling beams out of my belly button. The French kid says with a heavy French accent. My name is Tsuyu Ajui, but just call me Tsu. My quirk is frog. The amphibian girl speaks up as she lets out some of her extremely long tongue. My name is Tenya Ilda of the Ilda hero family. My quirk is called Engine. The blue-haired guy with glasses says as he flexes his leg out to show the exhaust pipes sticking out of his legs. My name is Ochako Uraraka. And my quirk is Zero Gravity. The brunette with pink cheeks speaks up as she rubs the back of her head. My name is Mashireo Ojiro. And as you can figure out by now, my quirk is Tail. A blonde kid says as he waves his tail around. Hey, my name's Denki Kaminari. And my quirk is Electrification. A boy with yellow hair with a black thunderbolt in it speaks up as he tries to do a cool pose but fails. And my name's Koji Koda. And my Q quirk is Ani Voice. The shy boy with a rock-chased head spoke up nervously. Yo, my name is Rikido Sato and I like to bake and eat. My quirk is called Sugar Rush. The muscular boy says as he does the classic strong man flex pose. My name is Mizo Shoji and my quirk is Dupli Arms. It's nice to meet you all. The masked giant said as waved with all 6 of his hands that he currently had. The name's Kyukijiro. My quirk is Earphone Jacks. The goth purple head girl says as she raises her jacks in the air. Name's Hantasiro. And my quirk is Tape. The plain-looking guy with weird elbows speaks up. My name is Fumikage Tokoyami. And this dash, the boy with a raven's head says as a shadowy bird-like entity comes out of his stomach. Is my quirk and friend Dark Shadow. Present mic voice name, Fumikage Tokoyami quirk. Dark Shadow. This quirk allows the user to summon a sentient shadow beast that's power varies on the user's control over the shadow beast and the amount of darkness that is surrounding them. Drawback. The shadow beast can go on a rampage if the user's control slips and/or the darkness in the area is too great. Hello classmates of Fumikage. And hello Fox. Dark Shadow says as he waves his shadowy hands. Izuku just nods as the pink-haired fox girl gives Dark Shadow a confused look. Name's Shoto Todoroki. My quirk is half cold, half hot, but I won't use my fire side. The dual-colored haired teen says coldly while not even looking at the others. Present mic voice name, Shoto Todoroki quirk. Half cold, half hot. This quirk allows the user to produce ice out of the right side of their body and fire out of the left side of their body. The user can regulate the output and temperature of both elements that they produce. Drawback. If the user overused either side of the quirk, the user will either get frostbite of second-degree bodies. Hello, my name is Toru Hagakure. And as you can probably tell by now, my quirk is Invisibility. My name is Katsuki Bakugo and quirk Explosion is the strongest out of all the extras in this room. I'm going to be the #1 hero one day and all of you are just my stepping stones. You better remember that, you DMN extras. Katsuki shouts as he makes some mini explosions in his hand to seem threatening, but it doesn't seem to work on the others because they start to throw paper ball at him and booing at him. Present mic voice name, Katsuki Bakugo quirk. Explosion. This quirk allows the user to sweat a nitroglycerin-like substance and is able to ignite it on the palms of their hands and make explosions. Explosions vary on the amount of sweat and the amount of control the user has. Drawback. If the user uses the explosions too much, the nervous system in the user's arm goes into a fragile state, making the user unable to sweat anymore. If pushed too much, the arms and hands of the user can be temporarily or permanently disabled. Hihi, my name is Minoru Mineta. My quirk is Sticky Ball and I'm looking forward to meeting all of you ladies. The short boy with purple hair and purple ball says with a perverted grin as all of the girls gave him a disgusted look. Hello everyone, my name is Momo Yayorozu, next head of the Yayorozu companies. My quirk is Creation. I hope to get to know you all better. The mature black-haired girl says while giving a polite bow. My name is Inesa Yorashi. My quirk is called Whirlwind. I hope to be all of your friends. Inesa says as he does a 180-degree bow and his head cracks the ground near the podium. Are you okay? Half of the class says in shock. Oh, I'm fine, I do that all the time. Inesa says as rubs the back of his head and stands up straight and goes back to his desk. Hello everyone, my name is Sakura Miko and I come from the Yokai Shrine. My quirk is Lightning Kitsune. The pink-haired girl with pink fox ears says as she eyes Izuku, who in return squints his eyes at her. Present mic voice name, Sakura Miko quirk. Lightning Kitsune. Yes, she has the powers of Yay for Genshin Impact. This quirk allows the user to generate a spiritual-like lightning that can shock and damage anyone who falls victim to the lightning, even those with lightning-resistant quirks. This quirk also lets the user amp up their powers by growing Kitsune tails that amp up the lighting powers by 1-fold per tail. An example is if 1 tail is present, then the power is increased by 2-fold, 2 tails is 3-fold power, and 6 tails is 7-fold power. The user can have a max of 9 tails, which is 10-fold power. Drawback: the more power used by increasing the tails, the quicker the user's stamina depletes. If overused and more tails used, the longer the cooldown for the user's quirk is. My name is Izuku Made, and I have a fox transformation quirk. Izuku says as he gets a bunch of confused looks. Hey, why didn't you say what your quirk's name is? Ilda says as hand chops the air. Well, sensei didn't say that we have to tell what our quirk does or what the name is, so I choose not to say it. Izuku shrugs and goes to wake up Aizawa, but not before an angry Pomeranian interrupts him. How dare you look down on me, you useless Deku! Katsuki shouts as he leaps from his desk and attempts to explode the green-haired boy. Still the same Katsuki, huh? Izuku says quietly as he stops walking and lets Katsuki approach him as some of the other students attempt to stop Katsuki, but he already was past them. When Katsuki came to deliver his first punch, Izuku ducked down and elbowed him in the gut and stopped him mid-flight and used the opening that the shocked Katsuki left open and continued to roundhouse kick him in the face and launched him into the wall. Many of the students and Aizawa looked at what just happened with shock as they saw the explosive blonde about to land a big hit on Izuku, and the next moment he was sent into the wall by the Izuku who didn't even use his quirk yet. You will never be the #1 hero with that attitude, Bakugo. You attacked me blindly out of rage, and look at what happened to you. I didn't even need to use my quirk to defeat you. Izuku says with a look of disappointment in his face. TSKFU Deku. Katsuki snarls as he walks back to his desk as if nothing ever happened. Hey sensei, we are finished. Izuku says to Aizawa, who looks at Izuku with a bit of curiosity as he heads back to his desk. Looks like I found my first problem child in this class. Aizawa mentally sighs as he stands up and brings out 2 boxes. These boxes have your gym clothes in them, so come grab one that's your size and head to the changing room and come to Field Gamma for a quirk assessment. Most of the class shouted out in protest and shock besides a few students. But it's only the first day, sir, and what about orientation? Ochako nervously speaks up. We don't have time to do silly things like orientation. You all are here to be heroes, so meet me down at the training field in 5 minutes. Aizawa says with everyone just staring at him dumbfoundedly, except for 5 people. Izuku, Katsuki, Inesa, Sakura, and Tokakami all get up and grab gym clothes and start to walk out the door. When Izuku gets to the door, he turns his head to speak to the class. What are you guys doing? We have 5 minutes to change. Izuku then starts to walk toward the changing rooms with those mentioned, with Katsuki behind them grumbling about how Izuku's stupid and weak. You heard Midoriya. Get your lazy butts down to the changing rooms before I expel you all. Aizawa yells out, shaking everyone out of their confusion, and they all get up and grab a gym uniform that was their size and walk down to the changing rooms. You will always be the same useless Deku, no matter how smart you are. Katsuki growls as he and Izuku both enter the male's changing room. I've changed, Bakugo. It's a shame to see that you haven't. Izuku calmly says as he starts to change, even though he is freaking out on the inside. Thanks guys, I don't know if I could have held out for this long without your help. Izuku mentally praises his voices. Don't worry about it, kid. That explosive boy needs a real hard reality check if he is going to be a good hero. Reassures Izuku. Bakugo looked at Izuku with a shocked look on his face before it turned into an engaged death glare, but he turned around and started changing. TSKDMNU Deku. I'll show you who is superior and stronger. I don't care if you have the ball to stand up to me, but I'll put you in your place. I'll put everyone in their place and show who is the strongest. Katsuki says as he looks down at his hand that is sparking with explosion as if reacting to his emotions. About 30 seconds later, all of the boys filter into the locker rooms and start changing except for 2 boys who head toward Izuku. Why hello my fox friend. How have you been doing since we last met? Tokoyami says as he starts to approach Izuku. I didn't know that you also have an alternate personality with that quirk of yours. Inasa shouts out again, drawing the attention toward Izuku. I've been good, Fumikage. How about you, my bird friend? Izuku responds to Tokoyami, completely ignoring the stares from the others. TSK, stop talking and change, you demen idiots. Katsuki growls as he takes off his shirt and reveals his hard abs. So manly. Kirishima compliments as he sheds a manly tear, admiring the explosive blonde's abs. Izuku can't help but sigh as he watches Katsuki yell and snap at anyone who tries to talk to him. I thought you would change, Bakugo, but you will always be the same, huh? It's only natural, Izuku. That human was raised in a toxic environment and raised to think that he is the best with that destructive quirk of his. Says with a lot of sadness in her voice. Hey guys, look at this. It looks like our seniors left us a gift. Mineta says as he motions for everyone to come toward a poster on the wall. Our seniors left us the best gift of all time. A peeping hole into the girls' changing room. Mineta yells out as he tears off the poster, and it reveals a small hole that seems to lead to the other side of the wall. Hey, that's not okay. Inasa yells out. That is highly inappropriate, Mineta. Get away from the wall or I'll report you to our sensei. Ilda shouts out as he angrily chops the air with his hands. That is so unmanly. Kirishima says as he continues to change. Don't do it, Grape. Izuku says in a low, dangerous voice. Or else. Mineta just scoffs at the poor attempts to stop him. I don't care what you all think, but I'm going to look through here and look at Yayarozu's bub, Ajui's bub, Uraraka's butt, and Mika's a dash. Mineta was interrupted by a sudden hard furry tail hitting him in the side and is launched into a nearby locker door that becomes dented by a Mineta-shaped hole. All the boys flinch back in shock and look at the origin of the furry tail and see Izuku standing there shirtless in his nine tails form with one of his tails on the opposite side of the changing room. Don't ever, and I mean ever, disrespect your classmates by trying to peek at them. That is a suable charge nowadays, so I would watch your actions if I were you, Mineta. Izuku says in a bit of a deeper voice with a bit of venom when he says Mineta's name. He then retracts his tail and continues to change while still in his nine tails form. So manly. Kirishima says with more manly tears rolling down his face. Many of the other boys look at Izuku with an appreciative look while also staring at Izuku's soft and fluffy tails that keep on swaying. You all better hurry up, we only have 2 minutes left to get down to Field Gamma. Izuku says as he puts on his gym shirt and leaves the locker room. TSK, what the stupid need, said extras. Katsuki says as leaves the locker room as well with a scowl on his face. Let's hurry up guys before we show up late to the first quirk assessment. Inasa shouts as he continues to change with Tokoyami nodding behind him and doing the same thing. 2 minutes ago on the girl's side, that green-haired boy. Why does he seem to have more power than he's letting on to? Sakura says to herself as she claims one of the lockers for herself. 30 seconds later all of the other girls come filtering into the changing room, but Mina comes in with a mischievous grin on her face. Hey girls, who do you have a crush on in our class? Mina asks, catching everyone off guard as they were about to start changing. It's only the first day, we don't know any of the boys well enough to make a decision. Sue calmly says as she starts to change. Yeah, it's weird to have a crush on a guy that you barely know, Mina. Jiro says as she puts one of her jacks into the wall and starts to change. Oh come on, at least one of you has to have a crush on one of the boys. Mina complains as she sees all of the girls shake their heads no. Oh come on, I want some tea. Mina complains as she starts to change as well. Hey girls, you might want to cover yourselves, because the pervert is about to look through a peeping hole. Jiro spoke up, causing all of the girls to use the clothes they were about to change into and cover themselves. TSKDMN perverted grape. Sakura says with an enraged voice as her body starts to get surrounded by pink lightning. All of a sudden the girls hear a loud crashing sound and they all look at Jiro for an answer. After a few more moments of listening, Jiro speaks up. It looks like the pervert got hit really hard by a tail and was slammed into one lockers. The tail came from Midoriya. Jiro says confused. Since when did Midoriya have tails? Jiro voiced what everyone was thinking. Midoriya did say he had a fox transformation, so him having fox features shouldn't be that surprising. Sakura says as she powers down and finishes changing into her gym clothes and leaves the locker room as Mina starts to interrogate the other girls for some tea. At Field Gamma was one of the largest non-city testing grounds at UA. But it was also the spot where the most expulsions happened. And it was Aizawa's favorite spot. Being able to determine a student's worth and potential in an afternoon while also cutting down those who have the wrong ambitions was Aizawa's favorite part of teaching. Those kids better hurry up or I'll expel them just like the kids from last year. Aizawa said to himself as a mischievous grin grew on his face. Those kids don't know just how much is at stake. This test will determine if they have the potential and talent to be true heroes in this society. Deku, you think you are better than me, you piece of... Katsuki angrily yells out as he and Izuku come walking onto the field. For the last time, shut up, Bakugo. You no longer have the right to call me Deku or Izuku. So if you have nothing better to do than bark at me and call me names, then either leave or shut up. Izuku snaps back as all 9 of his tails start to float ominously. Since when did the problem child have tails? I'll have to look into his quirk later. The way he phrased his quirk was weird, and it seems he has more power than he lets on. What a problem child. Aizawa mentally thinks to himself as he lets out a heavy sigh and goes to approach the 2 boys. If you both are going to argue like children, then leave this school at once. We don't have time for petty fights. Aizawa looked down at the 2 boys who both looked at Aizawa for a few seconds and eventually just stood in different areas. What is wrong with Ishido? She has no respect for personal boundaries. Sakura complains to herself as she goes toward where Izuku was. When Sakura managed to stop her complaining, she looked up and saw Izuku in his 9 tails form looking up at the sky. If you want to say something, then say it, and please stop staring at my tails. I know they're soft and fluffy. Izuku says as he turns his head towards Sakura, who looks at him with a bit of curiosity. Sakura looks Izuku up and down until it seems like she made up her mind. I won't lose to you, Foxy. Oh come on, why is everyone calling me Foxy? Izuku complains as he gives Sakura, seriously, it's just faster to say Foxy than it is to say Midoriya. Sakura says as she gives Izuku a teasing smile. Whatever. Izuku says as turns his head back to the sky and closes his eyes to meditate. Sakura just looks at Izuku for a few moments before looking up at the sky as well and can't help but admire the appealing sky. A minute or 2 later, Inasa and Tokoyami came onto the field just on time, but the rest of the class wasn't so lucky as they all arrived in a group 5 minutes after Inasa and Tokoyami. You all are 5 minutes late. What took you so long? Aizawa asks as he stares down at his class. Well, you see, sir, Mina tried to explain but was interrupted. I don't care what your excuses are. As heroes, you need to get ready fast and not waste valuable time that could be used for better uses. Aizawa gives them all the classic disappointed parent head shake, making all of them look away in shame. Sorry, sensei, we'll do better next time. Most of them say as they bow their heads. Stop wasting time and line up with the other 5. Aizawa points at Izuku, Katsuki, Sakura, Inasa and Tokoyami, who are all standing near a big circle. Since all of them yell out as they rush over to others. What a pain in my butt. I don't get paid enough to deal with this. Aizawa grumbles to himself as he walks past his students and goes to pick up a ball. Alright kids, listen up. We will be starting the quirk assessment now. This test will consist of ball throwing, sustained long runs, grip test, standing long jump, repeated side steps, sitting toe touches, sit-ups, and the 50-meter dash. Aizawa then tosses the ball to Katsuki without warning and he barely catches it. What was your highest softball pitch back in junior high? Aizawa asks, expecting a score that is slightly unreasonable. I think that it was around 75 meters. Katsuki says with a slight grin on his face, expecting to see the amazed look on his classmates' faces, but was met with looks of disapproval and head shakes. Bakugo, since you got the highest practical score in the normal entrance exam, you will go first. Step into the ring over there. Aizawa points to a big white circle on the ground a couple meters away from them. You are to throw the ball as hard as you can and to not leave the circle while doing so. Katsuki smirks as he starts to walk to the white circle and was about to throw when Aizawa stopped him. And one last thing. You are in UA are free to use your quirk as long as it's for conventional use and during tests. Aizawa could practically see the smirk grow wider on Katsuki's face, and he changed his stance and prepared to throw the ball. Katsuki's palm started to glow a bright orange, and for some reason it looked like there were red veins on his forearm, but it disappeared a second later as he threw the ball. Take this. Shin. Katsuki yells as he causes a really big and really loud explosion that sends the ball flying. Those with enhanced hearing, Izuku, Sakura and Jiro, were clutching their ears in pain as their ears started ringing. Really, Katsuki, die. Izuku grumbles to himself as he stood back up as the ringing went away. Aizawa looks at the kid with a bit of curiosity since he thought that he would get over 1,000 meters. You got a score of 2,675 meters. Aizawa says as he shows the class Katsuki's score. Ha, you can't even touch that score, you extras. Katsuki laughs at everyone's shocked looks. What the hell? Katsuki's score shouldn't have gotten over 1,000 meters, so how did he get over 2,000? Izuku thinks to himself as he looks at Katsuki's palms and sees the red lines on his forearm for a split second before they disappear. Does Katsuki have a second quirk? That is so manly. We can use our quirks. Kirishima yells out excitedly. This is going to be so fun. Mina shouts to herself, unaware of the terror that she just brought to her class. Fun, huh? Aizawa smirks to himself as he draws the attention of the students. And oh, you idiots, you shouldn't have said that. Don't say anything is fun or easy around Eraserhead. You just doomed the class. Izuku screams in his head as he knows what will happen next. If this is fun for you, then I'll make this fun for everyone. The person who scores last overall in all 7 tests shall be expelled. Aizawa smirks as he looks at the sudden distress on all of his students' faces. What? But that's not fair. Mina yells out as she waves her arms in protest. Fair? Do you think that natural disasters are fair? Do you think villains killing your entire family is fair? No, nothing is fair, and it is your job as heroes to fight the unfairness. Aizawa says as he can see the students slowly understand what he means. There's no point in arguing with our sensei. He won't change his mind on the expelling thing. Sakura says as she eyes Izuku, who gives her a questionable look. So she knows about who sensei is and about his expulsion tendencies. Both Sakura and Izuku think at the same time as they give each other a sideways glance. Aizawa manages to see the sideways glances and puts 2 and 2 together. So I have 2 problem children now, huh? Aizawa thought to himself as he turned his attention to the rest of the class. Alright, one come up and throw the ball as far as you can. Aizawa calls out as everyone slowly manages to finish the tests and leaves 3 people left. That infinity is going to be hard to compete with, but I have my ways to match it. Inesa yells out as surrounds his hand with pressurized air and waits for a few seconds before chucking it as hard as he could down the field, and makes a sonic boom as the ball breaks 2 sound barriers. Holy eeeh, a lot of the students said as they looked at Aizawa for his score. Aizawa saw their looks and smirked. Congrats, Yorashi, you now in second place with a score of 5,075 meters. Aizawa says as he shows everyone Inesa's score that barely beats Todoroki 4980. Diamen, they are all strong. Sakura says to herself as she walks up to the circle and takes a ball. Well, if they are impressive, I'll have to do better. Sakura then grows 2 tails as she takes a step back and prepares to launch the ball, while surrounding her body in pink lightning. Mineta stares at her as he starts to drool over the sight. Wow, those tails really support her A-dash. Mineta tries to say but was hit in the back of the head by a tail. Say that again about anyone and I'll report you for trying to peek on the girl's changing and SXL harassment. Izuku glares at Mineta, who gulps and hesitantly nods. Alright, 150% output, Kitsune Claw Strike. Sakura calls out as she tosses the valley in the air and strikes it as it starts to fall, sending the ball flying at lightning-fast speeds, leaving the smell of ozone in the air. Good job, Mirko, you got a score of 3,000 meters exactly. Aizawa says as shows the score to the class. That places you into 4th place for the ball toss. Aizawa announces to the class. Tisk stupid extras getting better scores than me. Katsuki says as he clenched and unclenched his hand as he let out a couple of mini explosions. Looks like it's my turn, huh? Izuku says as he walks toward the circle and uses one of his tails to pick up the ball Aizawa was holding. Well, I can use an improvised move I was thinking of using for this ball, throw. Izuku says as he gets down on all fours and says low to the ground. Huh, what's that animal stance going to do, huh? Katsuki says loudly to get people to agree with him, but no one does. Izuku only smirked as he made his tails grow really big and started to twirl them together around the ball, until his tails took the shape of a cannon. Improvised move, tail cannon. Izuku calls out as his tails start unwinding at fast speeds as one of his tails push the ball at the same time, shooting the ball out at fast speeds as it goes far and fast instead of far and out like most of the other ball. Congrats on getting 3001 meters, Midoriya. Aizawa says as he reveals the score to the class, putting Izuku into 4th place on the board. TSKBSJRD. How dare you try to show me up, Deku? Katsuki yells as he charges up an explosion in his hand as he rushes Izuku, as he shoots one of his tails deadly fast at Katsuki. All of a sudden Katsuki's hand stops sparking and Izuku's tail stops an inch from Katsuki's throat, causing Katsuki's eyes to go wide and Izuku to have a bored expression on his face. As expected of you, Eraserhead. Izuku says as he looks at Aizawa, who gives Izuku a surprised look, but it goes into a grin before anyone sees his surprised look. Hee, such a problem child. Aizawa says under his breath and is only heard by the students with enhanced hearing Jiro, Izuku and Sakura, and turns his attention to Katsuki. Bakugo, this will be your first warning. Do not ever attack one of your classmates outside of appropriate training exercises. If you keep that attitude, you won't make it far in this career if all you care about is being the strongest. Seriously attacking a classmate because they were supposedly looking down on you is not a reason to harm someone. Aizawa said with a pissed expression, because he knew where people with Katsuki's attitude ended up and he didn't want one of his students to go down that path. TSK fine whatever hobo-sensei. Katsuki says as he walks back to the rest of the group with Izuku following behind him. Alright problem children, let's continue on to the second test. Aizawa says, choosing to ignore Katsuki's comment and walks over to the track, problem children. Most people think as they all follow Aizawa. Long distance run. Alright kids, your next test will be a sustained long run. You will run around the track for as long as possible. If one or more of you happen to reach 30 minutes, then I will stop the run. Aizawa says as he steps aside and shows the starting line. All of you will be 3 groups of 4 people and 2 groups of 5 people, so split up into groups and try not to fight with each other. Aizawa eyes Izuku and Katsuki, who both look at each other before finding their groups. Oi Foxy. Sakura calls out as she walks toward Izuku, who is standing next to Inasa. Let me be in your group. Sure, and stop calling me Foxy. Izuku responded. No one can do Foxy. Sakura says as she gives Izuku a SHD-eating grin, who in return gives her a, seriously, look. May I join this group as well? Crow. Tsu speaks up from behind Sakura and scares her. Sure. Izuku says as Sakura yells at Tsu to not pop up behind her again. I shall join this group as well. Tokoyami says as he walks up to the group and gets an approval nod from Izuku. After a minute or two, Aizawa speaks up. Alright, so here are the groups you guys have formed. A screen pops up behind Aizawa with the groups and the students' names. Group 1, Yorazu, Todoroki, Shoji, Ojiro. Group 2, Jiro, Kaminari, Ashido, Kirishima. Group 3, Bakugo, Siro, Aoyama, Ilda, Uraraka. Group 4, Sato, Mineta, Koda, Hagakure. Group 5, Midoriya, Miko, Azui, Yurashi, Tokoyami. Group 1 step up and get ready to race. Aizawa gives his students his classic death glare, making some of them shiver while others just stare at him. When all of the first team members line up, Aizawa calls go and everyone runs. Momo lasts all 30 minutes because she makes an electric scooter and rides it the entire time. Todoroki only made it 23 minutes because he overworked his ice side and couldn't run long with his hypothermia. Shoji and Ojiro only lasted 18 minutes since they pushed themselves hard and got winded halfway through. Group 2 did a lot worse than Group 1. Mina got the highest in the group with 20 minutes because she created acid from her feet, but her feet dried out and had to stop running. Kirishima, Jiro, and Kaminari all timed out at 18, 15, and 14 minutes respectively. Group 3 was slightly better than Group 1. Ilda managed to max out the time since he didn't push his quirk too hard. Katsuki got 28 minutes because he got lightheaded about 3/4 of the way through due to using too many explosions. Zero, Uraraka got 20 minutes due to them not being able to use their quirks to help them. Aoyama got 8 minutes because he used his quirk to help him and it was a big mistake and ended in him collapsing in the middle of the track holding his stomach. Group 4 got the worst score. Sato got the best score with 25 minutes due to him training his physical body. Hagakure, Mineta, and Koda all got 14, 12, and 11 minutes respectively because of their lack of wanting to train their bodies instead of their quirk. Group 5 surprised everyone. Izuku and Inasa both maxed out. Izuku turned into one tails when no one was looking and ran all the way through. Inasa just flew the entire time and was only slightly winded by the end of the race. Sakura got 29 minutes. The only reason she wasn't able to last all 30 minutes was because she tripped on a rock while using her lightning to speed herself up and was disqualified because she stopped running and fell down after tripping on the rock. Tsu and Tokoyami each got 25 minutes. Tsu because of her strong frog legs and Tokoyami because he pushed himself hard, but both had to stop due to overheating themselves. Grip strength Izuku, back in his nine tails form, barely got first place in the grip strength test due to him covering his hand in his tails and forming them into a big hand and almost crushed the handle in the process. Shoji got second by making a bunch of hands and squeezing the handle really hard. Sato got third by a comfortable margin from the test of the class by eating a sugar packet and squeezing the handle. Inasa got fourth due to his massive size and strong figure, but didn't get close to the top 3 spots. Tokoyami finished 5th place by making Dark Shadow squeeze the handle with him. The rest of the class got average to low scores since none of them did any serious strength building and don't have quirks that would help them. Standing long jump, needless to say that Uraraka got 1st place by floating as far as she could before her quirk reached its limit. Shoto got 2nd place by launching himself off of an ice spike, clearing 150 meters. Inasa got 3rd by gathering wind pressure under his shoes and launching himself, getting about 150 meters. Izuku and Katsuki both got the score of 145 meters, getting themselves both 4th place. Katsuki used his explosions to make himself fly for as long as possible without doing any of his crazy aerial maneuvers, and Izuku used his tails and made them into a giant spring and launched himself high into the air. Sakura and Mineta both got 75 meters, sharing 6th place. Sakura did the same thing that Inasa did and gathered lightning under her feet and launched herself, but lightning isn't as good of a launching mechanism as pressurized wind is, and Mineta used his ball to bounce through the course, but he mistimed one of his jumps and landed on his face in the dirt. Tsu managed to get 57 meters due to her strong frog legs and leaping abilities, getting her 8th place. Ilda and Ojiro barely managed to clear 20 meters. Ilda did a running leap, but that didn't take him too far unfortunately, and Ojiro used his tail to give him a boost in the air, but it wasn't as powerful as Izuku's tails. Unfortunately, everyone else didn't even manage to get above 10 meters either because they didn't have any practice in doing this type of exercise or were just too heavy, Sato cough. Repeated sidesteps. As you all know, Mineta won this by a large margin by bouncing on his ball. Please don't judge me, you know I didn't mean it like that. Those who were heavy, Inasa and Sato, got last due to them being a bit slower than those who weighed lighter, Hagakure and Zero. Everyone else got an average score. Sitting toe touches Izuku and Sakura both almost folded in half while doing this and got the highest scores. Let's just say that Momo had difficulty completely bending down but did get an average score. No one did really bad in this, everyone just got average scores, minus Izuku and Sakura, which didn't impress Aizawa. Sit-ups, everyone had to grouped up in pairs of the same gender, but due to the uneven amount of boys to girls, a 15:7 ratio to be exact, Sakura and Izuku got paired up together. Sakura had expected Izuku to be staring at her bub the entire time, but to her surprise Izuku didn't even look down at her bub and just stared straight ahead to meet eye contact every time she did a sit-up. After it ended, the difference between first and last place for this portion was a 20-point difference and the lowest score was 45 sit-ups, so Aizawa didn't give a judgmental face at any of the students for this round. 50-meter dash. Alright kids, time for your last test. This test will determine who is getting expelled or not, so do your best. First pair up will be Ilda and Inasa. Aizawa calls out and both of the boys walk to the start line and get in their ready positions. Ready and go. Aizawa calls out as a large amount of heat and wind pressure blast off as both boys rush toward the finish line with Ilda winning by less than a second. Good match Yurashi. Ilda says as he forwards his hand to shake Inasa's. Ha! Good match indeed. Inasa bellows as he shakes Ilda's hand. This keeps on repeating with all of the pairs. Kaminari and Jiro. Jiro won by half a second. Mina and Kirishima. Mina slid all the way to victory. Bakugo and Uraraka. Bakugo demolished Uraraka's time. Tokoyami and Tsu. Tsu won. Todoroki and Momo. Todoroki froze his path and won by 3 seconds. Hagakure and Shoji. Shoji won. Sato and Siro. Sato won. Ojiro and Oyama. Ojiro won. Mineta and Koda. Koda barely won. Last up are Midoriya and Sakura. Aizawa calls out and sees Sakura step up and Izuku walk up in his one-tails form, making Aizawa raise an eyebrow, but he shook his head and looked back at the two problem children. I won't lose to you again, Foxy. Sakura calmly says as she surrounds her body in pink lightning. Izuku only looks up at Sakura before looking straight ahead and gets into a running position while his body seems to emit a green aura. Ready and go. Aizawa calls out as he watches Sakura and Izuku blitz through the dash and both finish at exactly the same time. Ha, I beat you, Foxy. Sakura cockily says as she leans down to smirk at Izuku, but he bursts into a cloud of smoke and appears in his zero-tails form after the smoke quickly dissipates after 2 seconds. No, we got a tie if anything. Izuku says as he looks back at Aizawa, ignoring Sakura's pissed look. You both got a tie for third place. Aizawa says as Izuku gives Sakura a told you look and Sakura gives Izuku an shake. Alright kids, come to the board to see your results. Aizawa motions for them to follow him as he points at a large screen that pops up and shows the overall scores. First, Shoto Todoroki second, Izuku Midoriya third, Inasa Yurashi 4th, Katsuki Bakugo 5th, Sakura Miko 6th, Momo Yorazu 7th, Ochako Uraraka 8th, Tsu Azui 9th, Fumikage Tokoyami 10th, Tenya Ilda 11th, Mina Ashido 12th, Ejiro Kirishima 13th, Mizo Shoji 14th, Rikito Sato 15th, Kyuka Jiro 16th, Denki Kaminari 17th, Mashiroa Ojiro 18th, Hanta Siro 19th, Yuga Aoyama 20th, Koji Koda 21st, Toru Hagakure 22nd, Minoru Mineta, he looks like I beat Yumiko. Izuku looked over at Sakura and gave her the biggest SHT-eating grin he could muster, who in return gave him a big death glare. Tisk, how dare you look down on me, Deku? Katsuki screams as he launches himself at Izuku and prepares to use his giggles explosion on Izuku, but he suddenly wasn't able to use his quirk anymore and was wrapped in a thick white cloth before he knew what was happening. Bakugo, this is your last warning. Do not attack another student outside of the appropriate combat training. If this happens, then you will be expelled without a second thought. Got it, Bakugo? Aizawa says as tightens his scarf and glares down at Bakugo with his glowing red eyes. Tisk, whatever you hobo. All I was doing was putting down the DM in need who keeps on looking down at me even though he is a weak and useless Deku. Katsuki says the last word with a bit of venom in his voice as he glares at Izuku, who just rolls his eyes. Don't let it happen again. If it happens again, not even the best lawyers in Japan can save you from being expelled. Aizawa says to try to get the point through Katsuki's thick ego. And no, please don't expel me, Aizawa-sensei. My dream as a hero hasn't even begun yet. Mineta says as big tears start to leave his eyes as he can see his dream of being a successful hero with his own HRM starts to shatter before his eyes. Relaxing, the whole explosion thing was a lie. Aizawa says with a grin as he watches almost all of his students look up at him in disbelief. You have got to be kidding me. Most of the boys yell out in shock. Maybe I should have said something about it being a lie earlier. Momo sheepishly says as she avoids the glares from her classmates. Yeah, maybe you should have. Kaminari yells out as he collapses to the ground exhausted. It wasn't a lie. Izuku says, drawing the attention of the entire class and Aizawa. Yeah, he expelled his entire class last year. Why do you think there isn't a Class 2A classroom in the school map? Sakura says, picking up from where Izuku paused. You shouldn't not give it your all. That's why Aizawa said the he will expel someone thing. The only reason some of you are still here is because he sees potential in all of us. Izuku finishes as he and Sakura turn around and walk back to the changing rooms. Definitely problem children. Aizawa says under his breath as he settles his stare on the rest of the class. You are dismissed from school for the rest of the day. Classes will officially start tomorrow, so get some rest and return if you think you have the power to be a true hero. Aizawa then turns around and walks back to the main building with all of the students heading back to the changing rooms. When Aizawa is out of earshot from all of his students, he starts to talk to himself. Izuku Midoriya and Sakura Miko. I'll definitely have to look into their history and see their conflicts in the past and just where they came from, because I'm pretty sure that the HSC would have recruited them before they came here. Aizawa looks up to the sky and lets out a long sigh. I don't get paid enough to deal with those two problem children. To Izuku and Sakura after they split up, Miko/Midoriya, just who are you and why do you have a close connection to the yokai/deities? I don't know who you are, but... They both grip their fists and look up at the ceiling with determination in their eyes. I won't lose to you, Kitsu/Foxy. This marks the end of What If Kitsune Deku Could Swap Gender? A big thanks to Sky Uclipse for granting the permission to feature this amazing fanfiction. The link of the original fanfiction is in the description below. Please like the video and subscribe to Deku Universe for more interesting stories. Thank you and see you soon.